Hey, Donovan Keith here, and in this video I am going to be talking about how to quickly lay out a scene, just sort of mocking up what an interior might look like by using assets that are available in the Cinema 4D Assets browser and the Cinema 4D Place tool. I'm going to start the video by talking through how to build a simple interior by just using a cube and a couple of capsules in order to manipulate the axis and normals, so it's a little bit easier to play around with. The first thing I'm going to do is build a simple environment, which I'm going to use a cube for this. I'm just going to do sort of an interior. And very often you'll want this to sort of sit on the floor. You can sort of do that manually by hand, which is easy enough. But if you want to have flexibility as you're laying these things out, if you go to Cinema 4D's asset browser and search for something called axis, you'll find this thing right here. It says geometry. You can't quite make out the full name, but if you go here and choose list view, you'll see it says geometry axis. You can drag that onto your object and it will become a child, and this will allow you to adjust how the axis of your object relates to its shape. So what I'm going to do is slide it up here on Y, and maybe I will use this sort of area, just sort of anchor it like this, or our lower left corner is the one that we're caring about. And I'm going to select my cube and reset its position. So selecting my cube, going to coordinates, right-clicking here on position.y, and now it's sort of anchored there. And I'm now free to come in here and adjust the width and the height, and it's always going to stay nicely anchored to the surface. So that's pretty nice. If I want to look around inside of here, navigate inside, the challenge is that the walls are going to get in my way. So if you want, you can turn on something called backface culling. And what backface culling does is it hides any surfaces that are facing away from you, which is sort of helpful, except that I want the exact opposite of that. I want the faces that are currently facing me to hide. So I need to tell these faces to flip around. And for that, there's something called normals, and I believe it is reverse normals. So I'm searching for reverse normals, dragging it in here, and what's happening is I can sort of change the order here. It's resetting the axis, and then it is flipping these normals around. And that's just allowing this options backface culling to hide these polygons. So the next thing I want to do is choose, I don't know, something that feels like a room size. So I'm bad with metric, so I'm just going to say it's 15 feet, FT, wide by, let's say it is 10 feet high by, let's say 20 feet in Z. And so now we've got a fairly small room that we can play around with. Now, to place elements inside of here, we're going to play around with the place tool. So the place tool is this one right here, and it allows me to take an object, like say a cube, and when I click and drag, it allows me to drag on the surface of my object. Now, this is maybe less helpful than I want because the back faces are still sort of trapping me. So what I can do is dolly in so that I am inside of this space, and now this should work. So you do unfortunately have to get inside of your object for this to work as well as you'd like, but it does at least do something. You can use this tool to drag it around. If you hold down Control or Command, it allows you to make a copy. You can rotate that copy, you can stack it on something else, you can hold down Control or Command and get another copy of that again. And so here we have the start of a scene. Now, I might want to, for example, bring in a desk. So if I go to my asset browser, I can search for desk, and I'm going to see a nice selection of desks to play with, and I'll just try and find the one that feels the most like what I want for this home. I'm going to say this is a home office. So this desk right here, desk 4, seems like a good candidate. I'm going to drag it into my scene, and you'll see that I'm actually able to drag this sort of bounding box for what the shape should be, even though it's not already downloaded yet. So this is a pretty nice feature. I'm going to drag and release. And you can see that it's downloading here. Your speed will likely vary depending on your internet connection. And now I've got this desk here in my scene. I think I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm grabbing this handle here, and I'm holding down the Shift key once I do to get it to sort of snap in place. So I can now place this like so. And if you want a good sense of how things are actually lining up, you can use your four-way views. So I'm just sort of framing these all up. If you want a keyboard shortcut, that would be Alt or Option H. I believe Option H on Mac, Alt H on Windows. That'll frame up on the sides here. So now we've got this placed, which is nice. The next thing that I want to do is, I don't know, let's find a lamp. Maybe there is a table lamp we can use. This is a floor lamp, table lamp. Let's grab, oh, desk lamp. That might be even better. So I'm going to grab this desk lamp, and I am going to place it on my surface. And we're off to a pretty good start. You can see that this shape is pretty interesting. Notice how it's sort of like sliding off the desk. That's because the center point of this object is sort of being thrown off by the handle here, or yeah. So what I can do in this circumstance with my place tool is change from the bounding box to the axis as my reference point, and that should allow me to place it a little bit more expertly. The size here probably looks all right. And if I want, I can now go into my side view. And very often these objects that have these sorts of cables, with any luck, that cable is something I can manipulate. I might have to come in here and go into points mode and try and find the points of my cable. So I'm selecting them, I'm taking my move tool and I'm moving them away. I'm just really just trying to hide the back of this cable behind this wall here. So now I've got a desk lamp, I've got my desk. You might make the desk lamp a child of the desk, so when you move the desk, it comes along for the ride. And you might move these closer to the wall. And nothing in the real world is sort of perfect in its alignment, so what you can do is also just do a very slight rotation, just to get it slightly off axis. Let's see, maybe a floor lamp does make sense at this point. This feels like a good mate to this one, so I'm going to download it. And going back into model mode, grabbing my place tool again once I get back to model mode. I'm going to take this floor lamp and I can sort of position it over here. Now I might start to worry about my composition. Maybe I want a chair. And what's a chair that feels like it goes well in this space? Well, goes well versus someone might actually have. Let's grab this office chair here and drag it in. Seems like it got moved off a little bit, so I'm going to bring this in, rotate it around, pull it back a bit, and let me see if I can find a computer. So I've got the option of a laptop or a traditional computer. This is reminding me of my father-in-law's office. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a traditional monitor here. He is really fantastic about keeping and maintaining technology and just maintaining things. I wish I had more of that. He's got a computer that's about 10 years old, perfectly maintained. It's it's going to work for another 5 years. It's pretty incredible. So waste not, want not, I guess is the point. Grabbing this cable again, we've got this USB cable. I'm going to pretend that this is I'm just going to delete this whole cable. I'm just going to pretend that this is a wireless keyboard, and maybe there's a mouse. Well, there's a literal mouse, so we'll just pretend like this is okay. That's a good note. That just maybe we might want a mouse in the future. Okay, so I wonder if we have any rugs. There is this right here. I wonder where it's being used. I can also search for, um, let's see, carpet. And what I can do is take my cube if I want. I can turn on separate surfaces here, uh, or I can, well, let's see. I can take my cube, for example, and I can make it editable, which would allow me to sort of manipulate these individual parts. But we've got these other two things that are sort of like dynamically adjusting it. So what I might do is just kind of cheat. No, let's do it right. I'm going to go to Objects, Current State to Object, which is going to take these sort of parametric children, these capsules, and apply their effects. So now I've got this cube here. I'm going to go into my polygon mode. I'm going to take my select or my move tool. I'm going to select this bottom polygon, and I'm going to search for carpet again. And I feel like carpet old is a good fit. So I'm just going to drag it onto that polygon selection. So you see that we get a material, and it gets restricted to this polygon selection, and polygon selection mimics what we just had here. And then paint, maybe I'll search for, or wall. Oh, we've got some picture frames. That feels like a good starting point. Photo. Let's say picture. And yeah, let's just grab, it feels like there's sort of like a black theme. Yeah, let's grab a couple of these picture frames in model mode with our drag tool here, or our place tool. And I'm going to place them. And as I drag them around, you can see that things aren't quite behaving the way that we might hope. And so I'm going to select my picture frame. I'm going to select my place tool, and I'm going to change what my up axis is. Let's see what happens with Z. Let's see what happens with minus Z. That feels better. Let's see what happens with bounding box here. And I'm just going to turn off backface culling for a moment so we can see what happens. Let's see what happens with Z again. I think minus Z is the one we want, and we might just have to get a little bit closer to see what's going on here. So yeah, we've got a picture frame. Maybe we'll drag out another and another, and maybe this is one of those sort of photo walls. We might drag in an additional picture frame. And get something like this. And this is just sort of like the process that you might go through as you start set dressing. I'm going to give this probably a not so quick render because I've got an older machine, and let's just see what we've got. And it seems like, let me see if my camera is actually in view here. Let me add a camera. Okay, I am in here. And I think I might just have to cheat it by adding in something like a PBR light. I'm using the classic renderers in Cinema 4D Classic or Standard. I feel like screen recording and using this light on my 5-year-old Mac is maybe pushing the limits. So now I've got this area light. I'm just going to rotate this down so we can at least have some starting light here, and maybe move it over to this section in the room. And I might just lower the intensity a little bit so it doesn't totally blow this out. And last but not least, I'm going to set up my render settings here. So I'm going to change my renderer from standard to physical. In the physical renderer, I'm just going to choose progressive to start here. This is not what you want to use for a final renderer, but it's a good way of playing around. And if I now render here, we can see what the scene's starting to look like. So actually rendering it is not crucial, at least for the purposes of this tutorial slash lesson. This is really about placing objects inside of an interior environment with a couple of bonus tips on the axis modifier and reverse normals modifier.